It's time to move into our final section of the series, and that is management and security. We're going to first off focus on Telnet, SSH, and CDP protocols. I'm going to talk about managing the Telnet and SSH sessions as you move around and manage the different devices on your network. Then finally, we're going to talk about using the Cisco Discovery Protocol, one of my favorite pieces that Cisco has created, to discover and create a network diagram of your network. Now, we've been using Telnet and SSH throughout this whole video series to access our different devices. And I'm not going to show you how to set up Telnet, how to set up SSH. That was in the foundation setup of the router. What I want to get into is how to manage your Telnet and SSH sessions and how to effectively move around the network quickly. So I'm going to use our existing network that we've been working with, and I'm sitting on this computer right here. So what I'm planning on doing is opening up a Telnet session over here to router 2. I'm just going to use a normal command line prompt to do this. I'll do telnet. Well, actually, you know what? Before I do that, I'm going to ping router 2 to make sure that it's online and reachable. Because if you telnet to something that's not there, the command prompt or even the Cisco router will hang there for 30 seconds or so, waiting for the telnet session to time out. It just takes a while. So it's more beneficial to just do a ping 192.168.1.2. From the command prompt, once I see a reply, I'll just hit Control-C to stop that, so I know that it's online. Hit the up arrow on the keyboard, jump back here, and change that to Telnet. Telnet to 192.168.1.2. Now I'm going to log in, if I remember that password, get into, well, I don't have to, but I'll get into privilege mode, and I have now telneted to my first router, router 2. Now, Cisco devices have the ability to telnet themselves. So, for example, maybe I'm doing some configuration between router 2 and router 3. I'm managing the WAN link. Well, what I can do is telnet from router 2 over to router 3. Let's do that right now. You can see 192.168.2.2 is router 3. Let's ping them first. 192.168.2.2. Looks like it's online, so I'll do Control A on there and type in telnet. Control A just moves the cursor to the beginning of the line. And now I'm telnetted over to router 3. All right, now what we've done so far, you've already known. Now I want to start getting a little fancy. There are a variety of ways that we can manage our Telnet and SSH sessions, and I'm going to use those interchangeably because we manage them the same way. The first one is by using what I call Cisco's finger twister. You can see this magic key sequence here of Control-Shift-6, then X. What that does is suspend a Telnet or SSH session. Here's the idea. I'm sitting on router 3 right now. First off, there's a quick way that I can kill the session, and that's just typing in exit. You can see the Telnet session ends, and I'm now back over to router 2. Now, with that in mind, if I want to get back to router 3, I have to re-telnet in. I have to, whoops, let me type in telnet. I'll just hit the up arrow. 192.168.2.2. I have to re-log in. I have to re-get into privilege mode and try and find where I left off. So this suspend sequence is pretty handy. Here's what I'm going to do. On the keyboard, I'm going to hold down Control-Shift-6 all at the same time. Look at the left side of your keyboard. It's Control-Shift-6. Let go, and then hit the X key on the keyboard. I don't know why they made it that complex, but they did. And that, you can see immediately, suspends my session on router 3, and poof, I'm back over on router 2. Now I can do whatever I want to do on router 2, you know, do some pings or whatever configuration I wanted. But if I wanted to get back to router 3, all I need to do is resume the session. So let me move on to some of these other commands. You can see show sessions will show the open telnet sessions from your router. Now I'm on router 2 right now, so I'm going to type in show sessions, and I see that I have an open telnet connection to host 192.168.2.2. That's router 3. So if I wanted to resume that session, I could just type in resume 1. It says resuming the connection. I just hit enter, and poof, I'm back over on router 3. Now Cisco, being witty as they are, made a shortcut for that. I'll do Control-Shift-6X, and I'll hop back over to router 2. By the way, it is essential that you do Control-Shift-6, let go, then X. If you do have the talent to hit all 4 keys at the same time, you will not be rewarded. It doesn't work. So I'm back over on router 2. I'll do that show sessions one more time, and I can see that I still have that open connections. There's a shortcut I can use of just typing in the connection number. I don't have to type resume. It says resuming the connection because I just typed in 1. One more for you. Do Control-Shift-6X. I'm back over on router 2. If I just hit the enter key on a blank line, the router will automatically resume the most recent telnet session that I was accessing. You can see I'll just hit enter. Oh, oops. There we go. Sorry, I had stuff highlighted, so my command prompt thought I was doing something. And it says resuming session, so just hitting the enter key. Now let's make this a little more exciting. I'm going to suspend the session back over to router 2, and then on router 2, I'm going to telnet to our CBT router. And that one was 192.168.2, wait, no, .1.1. Ah, okay. Whew, I was like, I should have pinged it because that's where it would hang for 30 seconds if that router was down. It's probably just taking a sec for the ARP request to go out and so on. So I'm going to type in my username, which is Jeremy, password of Cisco, and now I'm on the CBT router. Watch what happens. Control-Shift-6X. I'm back over on my router, router 2. I'll do show sessions. And now I see that I have 2 sessions open. One to router 3 and one to the CBT router. Now you notice the little asterisk by CBT router. That designates that that's been the most recent telnet session that I've been using. So if I hit enter on a blank line, it's going to resume that one. If I'd rather do this connection, I just hit the number 1. There I'm on router 3, Control-Shift-6X, show sessions, and you can see now the asterisk has moved to this because that's been the most recent session. So if I hit enter on that blank line, it automatically resumes that session. So by doing that, you have the ability to move around and get to all kinds of different routers. Now that moves us to the next command in the list, the show users. This shows open sessions to your router. I want to make sure I distinguish between show sessions and show users. Notice the from and the to. Show sessions shows what sessions are coming from your router, as in when I was doing this, show session says you have a session from your router to this one and from your router to that one. Show users shows open sessions to your router. Ever have that sneaky suspicion that somebody's on your router telnetted in behind the scenes? Well, show users will show you that. Now I'm going to do that on router 2 first of all. I'll type in show users. And you can see the only user that it sees right here is VTY194. That's my telnet line, if you will. That's coming from, oh, where am I? My highlights are getting wacky here. It's coming from me. This is my host IP address, 192.168.1.50. So as of right now, that is the only user on router 2. Now, if I hop over to router 3 and do a show users, it's going to see a connection. You can see line 66, VTY0 is the connection it's using from the location, and it's filling it in 192.168.2.1. That is the session that is from router 2. That's router 2's IP address right there, going to router 3. So I am able to see at any time who is on my router. Now, let me also fill in why the router is kind of hanging there. Did you notice when I type show users, it kind of hangs there for a little bit? That's because it has this feature turned on known as IP domain lookup. It sees what IP address is coming in, 192.168.2.1, but it's trying to do something known as a reverse DNS lookup, meaning it's trying to contact a DNS server and saying, well, what domain name, what name is assigned to 192.168.2.1? So if there is a name like google.com or something like that, it can put it there. So that causes it to suspend the output for a little while. I can fix that by going to global config and typing no IP domain lookup. Now watch how fast it goes. I'll do a show users and poof, right there. Everything drops out because it's not trying to look up that IP address to find out what name it is. So that is a way that I can see who is telnetted to my router. Now the good ones. Disconnect and clear line. The disconnect command kills one of your open telnet sessions. Now this is tied, let me grab my pen here. This is tied to this right here. Meaning if I'm doing a show sessions and I want to disconnect one of my telnet sessions, I can use the disconnect command. The clear line is tied to this one right here. Meaning if I see a user that's telnetted to my router and I want to kick them off, meaning I'm like, what are you doing on my router? And I want to kill them. Well, not literally, but kill their session. I can type in clear line and whatever, and it'll kill an open session that is to your router. So let me demonstrate these. I'm sitting on router 3. Let me hop back over to router 2, Control Shift 6X. I do a show sessions, and I see my two sessions that are open. First, the disconnect command. Let's say I'm done with the CBT router, connection number 2. I can just type in disconnect and then the connection number 2 right there. So I hit enter. It says, are you sure? Do you want to confirm? You hit enter. Done. We are now confirmed and we're good to go. So when I go back and do a show sessions now, it shows that one of my sessions has been closed. Now we come to the other one, the clear line X. This is done from the router that you would like to kill an open telnet session to. That sounds confusing even to me. What I mean by that is done when you are on a router. Let me hop over to router 3, and you do a show users, and you see a user on there, and you're thinking, I don't want that user on there. Get that user off. You can't use disconnect because disconnect just closes sessions from you. This is going to close sessions to you. I type in clear line, and then this, the columns are kind of jumbled there, but this is the line number. It's line 66. Type in clear line 66, enter. Oh, it's not going to let me do that because it's like, that's your line, goofball. So what I need to do is I need to let me do this just so we can demonstrate that. I'm going to make this excessively complex. No, I'm not going to make this complex. Yes, I am going to make this complex. I'm going to open a second command prompt. Just trying to think of an easy way to do it. I'm going to telnet to 192.168.1.1, which is our CBT router. Now I'm going to do a show IP route. We don't have any static routes set up. I cleared them off since the last lab. So here's what I'm going to do. My easy solution turned complex. I'm going to telnet from the CBT router to router 2. Log in there. Then I'm going to telnet from router 2 to router 3. That'd be 2.2. Good. So now I have an open telnet session to router 3. Let me come back here, hit the up arrow, and do that show what did I do? Did I do show? No, I typed show users. Where am I? Router 3, show users. There we go. And now I can see that I have another telnet session coming into that router. See that? That's this one right here, the one that I just opened up. So I have the one that I'm currently using with a little asterisk right here that tells me that's the one you're on. And then I have the one that I just opened from right here. So let's kill that one. Clear line 67. Enter. Now it says confirm. Are you sure you want to do this? I'm going to keep, well, it'll cover that. So I'm going to hit enter, confirm, and drag this back over. You can see right there, as soon as I hit enter, it says the connection was closed by the foreign host. So I'm going to jump back over to router 2, Control Shift 6X, do a show users. I didn't do the show no IP domain lookup on this guy yet. And I should see the two telnet sessions on router 2 that are in here. The one that I'm using right now that's telnetted from my PC, 192.168.150, and the one coming from CBT router that is 192.168.1.1 up here. So I'm going to type in clear line, and we'll do, this just gets better and better. I'm looking at this, and it doesn't quite show the line number unless it's 195. Let's do this. I'll show you a bonus command. Show line. Show line will show you all of the line numbers your router has. Okay, that's this one for iOS version formats it a little different. It has the line number after the VTY. So line 195 is this one right here, the VTY. So I'm going to type in clear line 195. Enter, says confirm. As soon as I do that, let me see if I can, I'll hit enter. You can see right on there, it shows connection has now been closed by foreign host. So that is your way that you can manage all your telnet sessions. Sorry if that was a little jumping around quite a bit, but that's the disconnect, the clear lines, show sessions, show users. That's how you can move your way around the network. All right, let's move into our next major topic, which is the Cisco Discovery Protocol, or CDP. This protocol is very handy when you have a diagram like this. There's a lot of times where you'll walk into a company and you'll be wanting to do some work and they'll either not have a network diagram at all, or their diagram is outdated or just doesn't have any IP addresses on it. Now, if you're looking at this, sure, it's helpful to see that, which is the physical layout of the network, but without any IP addresses, you don't really know where things are. So what CDP does is allow you to see directly connected, keep this in your mind, directly connected Cisco devices. So if I was sitting on router 2 and I did a show CDP neighbors command, which will show me what my directly connected devices are, I would see router 3 and I would see that Cisco switch, if it is a Cisco switch. It's the other point I want to mention is it says Cisco devices. This is a proprietary protocol that only works on Cisco. Now, by the way, that's what you need to know for the exam. In the real world, though, I found out that 3Com and HP have licensed the CDP protocol from Cisco. So they'll actually show up as well. Blew my mind the first time I saw that. But don't think of that for the test. On the test, if you're studying for the exam, it's only Cisco devices. So that's what you'll be able to see when you do a show CDP neighbors. Now, the benefit is that it will show you not only who they are, but what their IP address is, what router platform they're running, what iOS version they're running. There's a lot of good stuff in there. So this is very useful for building accurate network diagrams. Whether you have this kind of diagram to start with, which just shows the physical layout, or whether you have nothing at all to start with. Maybe you just have a blank piece of paper and you're thinking, okay, let's figure out what's connected. So with that in mind, let me take you to the command prompt and we can do a few of these commands. These are the 4 commands that you'll need to know to work with CDP effectively. Now let's say that we walked into a network and we had this network diagram. First thing that you would probably do is grab a laptop, and if maybe one IP address was known, that'd be helpful so you could telnet to the device. But if they knew nothing at all and you were trying to discover the network, you'd probably grab a laptop and plug into the console port of this router right here with your laptop and log in, get to user mode or privilege mode. It doesn't really matter because CDP is allowed in both, and type in show CDP neighbors. I hit the enter key and I can see right here that I have cbtswitch.cbtnuggets.com is one device, and then the second device is router 3. Now this name is so long that it actually kind of pushed everything down. You can see it kind of bled into the local interface. But if it was a shorter name, you would see it just like router 3 is here. I see that I'm connected to router 3. The local interface represents what interface I am connected them on. So if I was to plug into router 2 and do a show IP interface brief, I would know that my serial 0/1/0 port connects to router 3. And if I were building a network diagram, I'll tell you what, the first command that I would type is probably this right here. I'd say show IP interface brief, and I would see, oh, I've got an active serial port and a fast Ethernet port, and I would come over here and fill in my IP addresses. 192.168.2.1 is what I saw in there, and then 192.168.1.2 right here. I'd also fill in the port names, fast Ethernet 0/0, serial 0/1/0. Perfect, got the diagram done. Then I hit the up arrow and do that show CDP neighbors, and I go, okay, I'm connected to another router out my my serial 0/1/0 port. Hold time is how long it was since you last heard from that neighbor. Capability says they are a router. This is the platform of router that they are. It's a 2610 model router. And then this port ID is the remote interface that I'm connected to them. See, local interface is my interface. Port ID is the remote interface. So right there, I already know, okay, there's some router named router 3, got that name on here, but I am connected to them on serial 0/0. That's the show CDP neighbors command. I also, by the way, could fill in that I have this CBT switch sitting over here because I saw the host name, and I am connected to that switch on its fast Ethernet 0/4 port. The port ID is the remote port. So coming back to the diagram, I could say this is fast Ethernet 0/4 right here. See how I'm helping build this? Now, when I do that, I can go, okay, great. That's fantastic. I'm going to follow that up by typing in show CDP entry, which is the command below it. Oops. I just did something and shifted everything up. What have I done? Here we go. So I'm going to type in show CDP entry, and it's saying incomplete, saying you can either type in the name of the CDP neighbor, meaning I just want to see router 3, or I can see all of them. Well, let's focus in on router 3. I'll say I want to see entry router 3. Right there is even more beneficial information. Shows device ID is router 3. The entry address is 192.168.2.2. Another key piece. So I can come over here to my network diagram and say, well, I only knew the port at first, but now I know this is 192.168.2.2. See how cool this protocol is? It tells me their remote IP address, tells me what platform, that they are a router, the interface I'm plugged into them, the interface they're connected to me on. The hold time is, again, how long it's been since you last heard from that neighbor. And it's going to also tell you if that neighbor goes down, how long until they're removed from your neighbor table. Essentially, this is a dead timer saying if I haven't heard from that neighbor in 148 seconds, I'll consider them down. Down below that, I can see the iOS software, what version of software they're running right there, 12.3 release 22. A lot of good information about them. Now, with that in place, remember, this only shows me directly connected neighbors. So let me hit the up arrow. I'll do a show CDP entry, and I'll just do a star to see everybody, because I want to see CBT switch as well. cbtswitch.cbtnuggets.com. They are 192.168.1.100. So from right here, I could fill in 192.168.1.100. So I know the IP address that will let me access CBT switch. I can see, what port I'm plugged into them on, all the same information as before. But now, if I wanted to see what router 3 is plugged into and what CBT switch is plugged into, how do you think I do that? Telnet. What we were just talking about. That's why these two topics go hand in hand. From router 2, I can then say, okay, well, now that I know the IP address of router 3, it's 192.168.2.2, why don't I telnet over there? Log into router 3. I'm in user mode. Notice all of this can be done from user mode. And I type in show CDP, how about CDP neighbors? Enter. As soon as I do that, it goes, oh, the only person that I see is router 2 out my serial 0/0 port. So router 3 is saying, I see you. But it does not see anything else. So that's how I can effectively say, okay, router 3 must be an endpoint on that network because I don't see any Cisco devices that way. So I then can complete that diagram by typing in show IP interface brief and just saying, okay, well, there's the Ethernet interface of that. So this must be the 192.168.3 network. This is the 3.1 interface right there, fast Ethernet 0/0. So using CDP and Telnet, I can move around the network, and now let me telnet over to 192.168.1.100. That's my switch. Oops. What's my username? Log into CBT switch, then I can do a show CDP neighbors from there. I can see that this is connected to a whole bunch of stuff. Access server, some device called East, which is a Windows 2000 server, and down below you can see the Catalyst 3550 and all kinds of stuff can be seen by using this show CDP neighbors command. And this is where my network diagram would explode. I would say, we've got all these connections coming off right here. Now, just because it's going to haunt me if I don't tell you, you see that I have East right here showing up. Let me do a show CDP. I'm going to show you a shortcut. I mentioned show CDP entry. I like the command show CDP neighbors detail. It does the same thing as show CDP entry. It's just it is a little easier for me to remember. I only need to remember one command. So when I do that, you can see down here, This is showing up as a Windows 2000 server. Now, I mentioned that this is a Cisco Discovery Protocol. Does it see Windows devices too? Well, the answer to that is no, it doesn't normally. That server that's sitting right there is actually a Cisco Call Manager server. It's used in their voice over IP networks. Since they built that server using the Windows 2000 platform, they were able to install a version of CDP on there. But it is not normal that you will see Windows 2000 servers in your network unless they are Cisco servers that happen to be running Windows 2000. So let me hit the final two pieces of this command: show CDP enable, or sorry, no CDP enable and no CDP run. As you might imagine, this protocol tosses out a lot of sensitive information. So we might want to disable it on specific interfaces or on our device as a whole. For example, let me look up here at router 1. Router 1 is running CDP, and it's running CDP to the internet, meaning that once every 60 seconds, that's the default timer, it's sending out a broadcast to the internet saying, hello, here I am. I am CBT router, and this is what iOS I run, this is the version, this is my IP address, all that sensitive information. So I might say, well, I don't want that going out to the internet. Oh, sure, only the ISP is going to get it because CDP is a broadcast, and they're probably not going to care. But still, for security reasons, I want to make sure it only runs inside of my company. What I can do is let me get back to my router 2. I'll telnet over to 192.168.1.1, which is my CBT router. Login is me. I'm on CBT router. The first command, let me just do a show IP interface brief. The first command is used to disable it on an interface by interface basis. No CDP enable. So I can go into global config mode under fast Ethernet 4, which is my internet connection, that's why I highlighted that, and type in no CDP enable. Enter. Soon as I've done that, it is disabled on that interface. It's no longer going to send out CDP messages, so this router cannot be discovered on the internet port, but it's still sending out CDP messages on this VLAN 1 interface, which connects to the LAN, and that allows the internal network to discover it. Now, I might also say, I don't want CDP running on the whole router. Well, to do that, since it's a whole router thing, I can move to global config mode and type in no CDP run. Enter. By doing that, it turns off CDP on all interfaces everywhere, including fast Ethernet 4, so this command's a little redundant, but this shuts down the whole CDP protocol. In high security organizations, you'll commonly see them doing a command like that so that nothing can be discovered by anyone, because CDP is broadcast based, meaning it sends broadcasts out to the whole network. So if somebody opens a packet sniffer right here and they are a malicious person, they could actually see all of the Cisco devices sending CDP broadcasts into the network and discover the network from their PC on the LAN. So that's why CDP might be disabled. But in my opinion, the risk is far less than the reward, meaning that I would much rather run CDP on a network than not have it at all, because it is so beneficial to be able to see devices that you're directly plugged into. And that wraps up the first of our videos on management and security, managing our Telnet and SSH sessions. Moving around on Cisco routers is something that is commonly done in the real world, just kind of jumping around, telnetting from here to there to everywhere. If you open too many telnet sessions, it can just get downright confusing, but using that Control-Shift-6X to suspend and show sessions will help you navigate your way around. We also saw the Cisco Discovery Protocol, which will allow us to see our directly connected devices and discover a network where our network diagram may be either inaccurate, out of date, or just non-existent. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.